this estate is likely to be out of debt within the next few months. I mean, when we talk about, it originally having a, few $100 million debt, there's also talk that maybe there will be a transaction with Sony Music about the publishing. So there's a huge amount of money here going forward for Catherine Jackson and Michael Jackson's children.
And at this point, as we know from the will, the money goes to the Jackson estate, which we believe 40% goes to Catherine Jackson, 40% to children, 20% to various charities.
And as was said before, the charities that Michael Jackson has supported have been strong in the African American community and strong with children, although we also know that the trust does not specify which charities will get the money going forward. That is to be a decision of the executors, John Branca and John McClain. So that's an enormously powerful position for those executors to be in.
You saw a moment ago some of the pictures of the perimeter and police making that kind of V shape in order to best protect the perimeter. And certainly now that the casket body of Michael Jackson is inside the Staples Center, we're getting word the city of LA has actually a website that allows the public to donate money to help pay for this memorial service. It's estimated that all these security and logistical costs run $4 million or so is one of the numbers that I heard. It definitely is expensive. It's been running so far, from what I've seen, without a hitch, but there is a website now set up through the city that if people want to help underwrite it, they can.
And Brian, the Jackson family themselves, I mean, they have serious financial trouble. They have been, many members of the Jackson family have had real financial trouble over the last year.
They have. They both tried to generate revenue separate from Michael, separate from the Jackson 5 and the Jacksons as individual recording artists. Jermaine was his own single recording artist. Janet, of course, has been very successful, but they've also had some very big challenges. So I think over the next few days and few weeks, the sales of his music online through iTunes and everything else may help recoup some of that debt, both Michael personally, the trust, and may spread over the family.
But you would deal with the folks who were reading the magazine, and it was such a successful last interview that you had with Michael Jackson. It was incredibly successful, and people wanted copies of it, multiple copies of it. Did people talk about the Michael Jackson that they loved? I had so many people email me and say, well, the Michael that I loved was not the Michael Jackson of the last 10 years. It was the Michael Jackson from the Jackson 5 up to somewhere around 1988, 1990, 1992.
Well, there are many Michaels for many souls. The Jackson 5 in the early 70s and early 80s. Michael Jackson is an individual recording artist. The Jacksons, when they did the big Victory tour, which was so successful, and even the later days of Michael after Off the Wall, which was my favorite album, Thriller, which was the biggest seller of all time. Then he did Bad and Dangerous and Invincible, and it had some history where he released some of his old songs as well as a few new ones. Different phases of Michael's life, we saw that there was universal love and respect for his music, even despite the controversy and despite the many phases that he personally went through and the challenges and the struggles that he had battling the demons inside himself.
Joining us in New York, Donna Brazile, as well as Roland Martin and Jeff Toobin. Donna, you talked about your early remembrances of Michael Jackson. Is there a song that, when you think of Michael Jackson, you think of?
Oh, from the beginning, I Want You Back to Got to Be There, Mama's Pearl, ABC. I danced to all of Michael's music. I loved him. As a child growing up in Louisiana, every month my mother would give us a couple of dollars. I would go out and get a Right-On magazine, and I tell you, we had a competition in our household in terms of, Michael's picture, Jermaine, Tito, Jackie. It was an era that right after Dr. King was assassinated, Bobby Kennedy, the following year, the Jackson 5 came on the scene. They brought so much hope, so much inspiration, and Roland and I were talking a few moments ago about the concert. Roland went to one in Houston, I went to one in New Orleans, but that summer my mother tried to convince us to go on vacation, and I said I wanted to stay home and go to the concert and did some babysitting jobs and some other odd jobs just to have enough money to buy his t-shirt and even more albums, and I still have all his albums.
Roland Martin, in the last week or so, really since Michael Jackson's death, we have seen the African-American community really embrace Michael Jackson without any ambivalence. There was an interesting article in the New York Times that Marcus Mabry wrote about sort of changing attitudes or shifting attitudes in the African American community toward Michael Jackson. What did you make of that?
Well, first of all, there were never any shifting attitudes from African Americans when it came to Michael Jackson. Sure, you had people who criticized Michael because of his skin, because of his hair, because of things along those lines, but you always have that. The reality is, look, black people adore Sidney Poitier, they adore Quincy Jones. Look, both those individuals married white women. So somebody says, well, I'm going to criticize Michael because he married a white woman, that's absolutely nonsense. Look, African Americans adore Michael Jackson because of one thing, the music. You can go to any club in America. I don't care if you have the biggest gangbangers or you have people who are upper middle class who have tons of money. If you put on Wanna Be Starting Something, if you put on Can't Stop Till You Get Enough, I can guarantee you it will flood the dance floor. And so it is about the music. And I think that's the piece there. When you think about musicians, when you think about why people adore entertainers, it is because of the work. Yes, there's a personal side, but people think about that. And so that's what it points to. I had people who were emailing me who were trying to do their best to get tickets to go to London for one of those concerts. These folks didn't even have passports, but they said they wanted to be certainly at one of those concerts. And so that's what it was about. It was simply about the music, and he was indeed, and I think more black folks are probably learning now the kind of barriers that Michael Jackson broke down that they probably didn't know existed when he was alive.
It's interesting, though, when you talk about African Americans and Michael Jackson, because I think that what Roland says about the music is very true. He's right, and I'm not sure there's a lot of CDs you can put on where everyone's clear before to start dancing, no matter where they're from. But at the same time, the skin tone thing, Michael Jackson never sort of confronted questions as a black man. In fact, while he was surrounded with, and his family was very close to him, but you really didn't hear him say that a lot. I mean, on one hand, he's breaking barriers. It's another one of those contradictions. Really, breaking barriers for African Americans. Don't